Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, and thank you all for being here. So we have been talking about certainty and in the process of trying to negotiate how we surrender into the blessed field and how we allow the higher powers to overcome the influence and the agitation that is being created by the adversary. Today, I want to switch gear a little bit, and I want to talk a little bit about the ascension process as a whole, okay? And I'm going to start by talking about the ascension. I'm going to describe what ascension is, and then I'm going to talk about the ascension process as it happened for my teacher in 1989, and the ascension process we're going through here right now.
Here.
Yes.
Could I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
From last time? I don't know. I was contemplating, and I just want to hear you comment on it because I'm not quite sure. Like you would, okay, the essence was certainty of the context. But then I was thinking like, well, what is the difference or the intersection between certainty and faith?
Okay, that's a fair question. Faith, on some level, can be equated to believing without having any proof.
Okay.
Okay? So it's like you're believing because your forefathers or the priest or the dogma, the environment is telling you that's what it is. Certainty, it's an inner knowing of cosmic facts.
Okay.
It's beyond faith. It's not a dogma, but it's a knowing of cosmic fact.
Okay.
What it is, it's beyond, and when you know it with such incredible power and strength, it goes beyond faith. And this is why it becomes a decree, and then the entire natural world, the laws of physics, laws of nature, organize around that knowing, because it's so palpable and so powerful that it rewrites the laws of physics and the laws of nature.
Okay, I see. So certainty is the law.
It's law.
Okay, I got it.
When you're in certainty, it's law. It's not about just a belief and a hope, and it's law. And when it becomes law in your consciousness, in your mind like this, and it becomes law, and you're connected to that law, then the entire multiverse has no other choice but to obey.
Okay, I get it. Thank you.
So in a way, Esther, people, this is the way all of the masters and all of the great healers and all of the god and goddesses have been able to achieve everything that they have achieved, because they exist in absolute certainty.
Yeah. Okay.
When Kuan Yin,
I get it.
I'm going to amplify just slightly because it's a great question. When Kuan Yin comes in and she has the capacity as the goddess of mercy and compassion to remove some part of karma and to erase it, she's not doing this because she has faith.
I see.
She's doing this because she is in absolute certainty that this is her ability, her role, and her power.
I get it.
Okay?
Yeah, I get it.
Now, not all of us, this is why we're using the symbol. We're going to go over that again today. We're using the symbol, the Hebrew letters of Ayin, Sheer, and Had. That's why we're using the Hebrew symbol as a way to kind of like support us attaining that state. But it starts with faith.
I got
and it moves beyond faith.
you. Mhm.
Make sense?
Oh,
While
oh yeah, I get it. I get it. I get it.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
totally do. Yeah, it's really correlates with the patterns of the trestle board, that spells out the 10 laws, from 0 to 10. I get it.
Yes.
I mean, well, that's Kabbalistic stuff,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
okay.
the tree. Yes, yes, it does.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay, but I get it.
Okay, so while we're on the topic, I'm going to share my screen with you, and I wanna talk about the actual a different thing of the Kabbalistic tree. And again, this is the three symbols, and it's three Hebrew letters that are pronounced. The first one, we're reading it from right to left. It's Ayin, Resh, and Yod. Yod. Ayin, Resh, Yod. Now, I want to emphasize as well that if you've been practicing, and actually it's an eye connection that needs to happen, okay? So on a daily basis, I bring the picture up, I look at that, and I make an eye connection with each the right symbol, and then the one to the left to it, and then the one after that, and I do it over and over again. And after a certain while, I feel like I'm getting dizzy, right? When you get there, or you can go blank. If you're getting there, you've achieved connection, because these letters are connected to your DNA, and they're going to trigger a DNA response to go beyond faith into certainty. And your entire world and everything around you and the entire cosmos will follow suit. Now, we use this at the very end of our request to God, when we surrender something into it and we want to make sure that it's going to be made manifest. That's what we use to get into absolute certainty. So it's absolute certainty in the life force of God. Because as the infinity times infinity, with the endless field of solutions set, the one that will nullify the condition that you're requesting from God, the field, that endless field, will manifest it. You don't need to know how. You just have to exist in the certainty that it is done. Not that it will be done, but it is done right now. So Ayin, Resh, and Yod.
So then, Pierre, I see certainty as the energetic pattern. That's the law of energy, and how it is aligns itself or move, exist within the universe. I guess that's it.
In order for anything to be precipitated, in fact, when God exhaled to manifest our universe, with the frequency and the vibration of courage, it was manifested from certainty.
Right. Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Because there is no other way.
No, that's very helpful.
Yeah, there is no other way for anything else to be created if it's not uncertainty.
Yeah. Yeah, because everything is created, or everything exists within the energetic pattern.
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
the frequencies and yeah, okay.
Absolutely. And it's not just anything that we can imagine, it's things we cannot even imagine. Because everything in the blessed field, there's an endless field of solution set. Endless.
Yeah.
Permutation,
Right.
all kinds of things. And when we make a request for a prayer and we're trying to seek that solution, what we're doing, in order for us to connect, to make it magnetize and come here, many of us are in faith, but sometimes the faith get eroded or challenged by the adversary with doubts. But when you use those 3 Hebrew letters of absolute certainty, the doubt vanish and absolute certainty remains.
Mhm. So those symbols help you align with those energetic patterns.
Yes.
Okay.
And more importantly, the knowing, the complete utter knowing that it is done. That's a great question, Esther. Really great question.
Well, thank you for your comments too, because it helped me clarify. I was struggling a little with those.
You know, faith, the way faith is, if you're in faith and you believe and all that, so on and so forth, you can remain, but it's constantly being challenged by the adversary. By putting down stream of consciousness, when you're in absolute certainty, there is no room for the adversary.
Yeah.
He's cast out.
Mhm.
Now, some of you, in doing the symbols on a daily basis, you will have remarked that even after you're not staring at it, the symbol still remains in your mind. And you can notice after you're going about your business, it seems that even it's not even related directly to the stuff you were asking about. It seems that other parts of your life as well, other things that you're doing, there is a kind of, it's beyond confidence. There's a kind of synchronicity and alignment that seem to pave a path of ease in front of you. And it's all because you're in absolute certainty. But although we know the name and we know the symbol, it's Ayin, Rash, and Yod, a lot of time people are making the mistake of thinking, I'm just going to think of the letter. No, you need to put the symbol in front of you. It's the I connection that triggers it. Because the Hebrew letters as a sacred language, there are 5 sacred languages, and all the sacred languages are connected directly to our DNA. And because Hebrew is and Aramaic is a sacred language, when we connect to it, it automatically bypass all the barrier and all of the intellectual and all of the doubt that the adversary can create to mask the truth. It bypasses it. Because through your eye and what you connect to it, there is power. When we did the monadic merger and we were inside the clock and looking in different direction, when we did the nape of the neck exercise for the dream class, when we did all of these things, it's all connected to the eye. In your dream, let's say you're trapped somewhere and you've done a lot of work on your dream and dream control, and you're trying to escape. Let's say there is a window and you see a scene. By staring at the scene, you will automatically shift the dream and go somewhere else. The power is in your eye. These are deep and profound teachings, because in Tibetan Buddhism, it's the eye. In Kriya Yoga, in all of these inner teaching in Hinduism, it's the eye connection that's the power. So just because you have in your mind and your consciousness, you know what the shape looks like and you think you don't need to look at it, trust me, stare at the symbol for 5 minutes. Bring it up, stare at it. Because it's going to bypass the adversary. because your memory and all of that, the pattern, the adversary can begin to put all kind of lens and filter on top of it to disconnect you to that kind of, because the adversary has no interest in having you stay in that state. Otherwise, his role is invalidated. Any other questions or comments about this? All right. So what I want to do now is that I want to talk about what is ascension, going back to the topic at hand. Ascension is a return back home. In a lot of ways, the biblical story of us being kicked out of the Garden of Eden is absolutely true. There was a descent of God's consciousness or God fragment into lower realm and lower dimension. Ascension is the way back home. There are multiple biblical stories about ascension, whether it's Mother Mary, the assumption of Jesus, of Ezekiel, and many other patriarchs in the Bible that ascended into the heaven. It's about the elevation into a higher state of consciousness, literally a lot of time marked by an actual lifting off the ground, an elevation into the heavens. So the ascension process is a process by which many teachers okay, so if there was no path and no methods in front of us, it would take us millions and millions, if not billions of years before we finally get to the ascension process, okay? Because we are not as smart as we think we are, because we are distracted very easily by the adversary and our egos get in the way, and we, from lifetime to lifetime, from incarnation to incarnation, we tend to repeat the same things over and over again. It's amazing for me to realize that in me, but in other people too, as a past life regression therapist. I can tell you that I have witnessed people who have repeated the same thing over and over again, different permutation, but they repeated the same thing over and over again in ways that seems to be so unintelligent. So the people who have achieved illumination or ascendance, enlightenment, however you want to call it, have laid down methods for this so that they can help the rest of humanity move through the process in a more accelerated pattern. Thus, the teaching that I'm teaching to you now, that I learned from other teachers and other masters and so on and so forth, as a way to kind of accelerate the process. But ascension in itself connects to a state of non-attachment, where you begin to realize everything of this world, the 3D world, is an illusion. That your mind is fabricating a whole bunch of things and belief system to make you react emotionally, and therefore your ego be trapped into the 3D world. So our five senses, although it has allowed us to navigate the 3D construct, but at the same time, it has become a jail, because the sensory perception of the five senses have seduced us so that we have become jailed by it. And I'm using those terms deliberately, okay? And because of this prison, we have to figure out a way out. And in Buddhism, it's mindfulness, and it's the process of cultivating higher virtue and service. And through these processes, you're able to get to a point where you achieve what they call liberation, which would be ascension in our term. In our parlance, in our term in the light community, ascension is achieved when you have achieved perfect balance between love, power, and wisdom. Love, because there exists only two basic emotions in the entire universe. There is fear, and its opposite, love. Fear fragments and separates and begins to make us believe in all kinds of illusions that are untrue. Fear is the absence of love. It's not that the fear actually exists. It's just the void that is created when love is not there. The fear itself is formless. Although it emotionally creates all kinds of cacophony and all kinds of problems, but the fear really is formless if you're looking at it from a deep spiritual level, because the only force that really exists is love. And from that love comes, and the love, it's, okay, the reason I'm saying there's only two emotions, it's because everything else is a derivative of that love. You can think of the love as a white light that goes to a prism. When we were doing the monadic merger, there were the 12 higher virtues that we talked about, the 144 higher virtues we talked about. Okay, whether it is gratitude, whether it is wisdom, whether it is control, whether it is, whatever virtue we were working on, each of these virtues came from one place. It came from love, and it's kind of like spread out like rays of white light passing through a prism that fragments out. Now, many of us on earth, because we're so trapped into fear, we only experience about 5 or 6 emotions if we're very lucky. We experience fear for certain. We experience attack because of the fear. We try to attack or we try to defend ourselves. Then we're victimized. It's all negative emotions. If we're very fortunate, we might experience love. And if we're really lucky, that love may translate into us sharing the love with someone else. Because a lot of time, the love we temporarily, and many of us it's much easier for us to love others than it is for us to love ourselves. And that's the range. So when we did the cultivation of the virtues and we were moving upwards, when we were asking our higher self to teach me the gratitude teach me the wisdom teach me, the victory and so on and so forth, all these higher virtues, we were seeking from our monadic self a feedback, because at some point when we were still in grace and still elevated, we were connected to these virtues. But in order for us to descend into physical matter, they were cast out, they were broken. Now, because there is no time and space, when you're doing the cultivation of the virtue, you can still ask the fragments that are still in time space around you, that part of you that's still connected to it, to remind you what it feels like. And this is the way in the cultivation of the virtue, we were able to connect to the higher virtues. That's the aspect of love. But when the higher emotion comes in, I told you my experience with gratitude. Gratitude for me took me 2.5 weeks to actually, 2.5 months to unpack. When I got to that virtue as I was doing the practice, I remember sensing something really big. And I'm like, I can't figure out, something was there, something immense. I couldn't figure out what it was. Every day I was like, this is the same feeling, something that's unlike anything that I've ever experienced before. Then again, after 2.5 months of feeling this thing, I finally asked myself, and that day I remember I was in intense listening mode, meaning as if every cell in my body had ears, and whatever it is that's in, it felt like a giant column of something, of energy. I just didn't know what it was. And I remember I asked, if I were grateful, what would I feel? What would I know? What would I understand? And I heard the word reverence being whispered to me, reverence. And I remember I didn't understand. I heard the word, but in my frontal lobe, reverence has nothing to do with gratitude. I couldn't comprehend it. And I remember I tilted my head to the side, kind of like a dog that's trying to listen to something. You hear something and you're trying to turn your head to listen. I tilted my head slightly, and I'm like, what? I thought to myself, what? And I waited for an answer. I don't know how many seconds passed. Then I heard that very specific sentence. Deep and profound reverence for the gift received. And my entire being started shaking. In one sitting, I would have never figured it out, because it was so complex of a higher emotion that I would not see it. Because as I said, it's 6 emotions that we as human beings that we go through. Average human beings, only 6 emotions. And because of this, it's very difficult. It was very difficult to connect to it. And that reverence became the catalyst for me, the linchpin, to allow me to go in and to hear the rest of the. For a period of 3 days that followed, I couldn't go to any other emotion. I couldn't cultivate any other emotion. Or every time I thought, every time I felt, the whole feeling came back, and it came back with power, which brings us to the next piece. It brought to me wisdom and understanding of gratitude that I didn't get before. It brought me incredible wisdom. And with that wisdom was power, which is the right use. Listen carefully to what I'm saying. With that wisdom, with that understanding, came the power, which is the right use of that virtue. There is a difference between force and power. It's not force what you can go in and shove something down, violently agitate someone and force a particular understanding on them. But it's power, which is connected to radiation and attraction and entrainment. So when you have understood the wisdom of love and all its derivatives, you end up being extremely powerful. Not forceful, but powerful in the way I just described. For example, there is tremendous power in mercy when it's administered rightly. Or gratitude, or compassion, or justice, one of the other higher virtues. And in virtue, there are all these subderivatives. There is truth. There are all these other higher emotions that are inserted in there. And all of them together, collectively, form divine love. Ascension is the remembrance of that entire process. Any questions, any comments? Now, I want to talk for a moment about the process that Dr. Stone and his core group, there were 7 of them, in around 1984, 85, he began to do deep spiritual work with a group of other light workers. He was based out of Northern California, and he had people from around the world. They were not all in the same location, because Lady Chang was from the Philippines. There was a whole bunch of them that were working together, and they were channelers and deep spiritual teachers who were working together in lockstep to achieve ascension. Okay? The detail of the process that he went through was delineated in 2 books. One is the revelation of the Melchizedek initiate, and the second one is Beyond Ascension. So what had happened is that they spent years of doing or meeting. I think they were meeting 2 or 3 times a week, in calls or physically together, and they were channeling. They were doing all kinds of work. They were doing similar exercise in lockstep, and they were being guided by Lord Melchizedek. As the channel Lord Melchizedek, more information was coming in, and they were moving in lockstep. And as they moved in lockstep, they were elevating together. Sometimes one would elevate before the other one, and the reason for the group work is because when you gather together and you're doing work together, it creates a vortex that's much more powerful than the sum of the parts. It creates a collective awareness and group energy system that can accelerate that can be used for the benefit of everyone. And he delineated all of this process in those 2 books. I have to tell you, and around 1989, 1990, they all ascended. I have to tell you, though, if they were living today, that process would not have worked. And I'm going to tell you why. And part of it is because I don't know if any of you have heard of the harmonic convergence. It is actually a process it's an astrological configuration where and it's connected to 2 things. It was predicted by a series of authors. One of the main proponent of it was Tony Shearer, and he determined, he was a Mayan and Aztec cosmologist, and he determined that there were 22 cycles of 52 years each, or 100 and 144,000 in all, and a 2 cycle that were divided by 13 heaven. It's kind of complex. There was a cycle of hell and all that happened, and it was going to end on a specific date, which was August 16 and 17, 1987. And around that time, there would have been an astronomical configuration where planets would have been aligned in this very specific way called the Grand Trine. And because of this alignment and all of the other different cycles that were confirmed by Aztec and Mayan cosmology, they determined that it was an energy of peace. So for the first time since 1983, they've begun to orchestrate the first collective and global peace meditation. And as they did this around the world since 1983, leading to August 16 and 17, 1987, they did work. They did also chakra work. They were meeting, for example, in Mexico at the pyramids of the. I'm trying to think of the name. I can't remember now. They met at several earth chakra locations, and they did work by doing work with 144,000 people coming into the peace meditation, asking mercy, asking grace, asking God to bring peace to the world. And they went around the world. They did all kind of work, and it was the first time it was done so openly. I'm not saying the first time in our recorded history, modern recorded history. I can't say it's the first time it was done on Earth altogether, but the first time in our recorded history that it was done. And because of this, a gigantic dispensation got created from God, where an ease and an abundance of light at the convergence at the time of the last meditation that was done in 1987. So much light was brought to the world that it allows for the next few years any disciplined student that was sincerely working on the ascension process to achieve ascension. Okay? Any questions, any comments about that?
Yes, please. To be certain I understand, ascension in this discussion means a full return to God, not just a 15D or 16D or whatever,
No.
5D or excuse me, 5D, but a complete return. Yes?
Yes. But the doorway through it is 5D.
Uh-huh. Is that why Dr. Stone had to, I don't know if he had to, but he contracted cancer, I think you said, and that was his exit vehicle through the ascension. Why would that have been necessary?
Okay, Dr. Stone was supposed to be dead when he was in his 30s. He had contracted the cancer way before.
Oh.
Then he renegotiated his contracts 3 times. And because of the kind of disciplined person that he was a taskmaster to himself, much worse than I am, that he accomplished every time, and he was supposed to be the end of his life. He got a new purpose, a new direction, he fulfilled it, and then it was supposed to be the end, he fulfilled it again. That happened 3 times. And by the time he was 53, there was nothing, no other purpose or mission that was left to him for him to do on Earth. He had moved to all of it. It was his time to leave because his next mission was in the higher plane. And since cancer was a weakness, he died of it.
I imagine ascension being, I don't know if it's a physical ascension necessarily, but a very peaceful transition, like one just flips a switch, or you go to sleep and you are in non-physical ascended state, but suffer through a cancer death would be
He,
That
he,
surprised
he,
me.
he didn't suffer at all.
Oh, good.
In fact, Gloria Excelsius, that was in the room with him, when I asked her, she said, when he transitioned, she said the whole room was illuminated.
Mm.
He said there was light in the entire room. And he said, for 3 days, I couldn't cry because his illumination had blinded me. And she said, I began to mourn and grief after 3 days.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? It's not a process, again, for him, for Dr. Stone, because of his dharma and everything else. When he was 30, he was supposed to leave the planet. But because he was so deeply spiritual, he went in the Akashic record and in front of the Ascended Masters, and they told him, "You're welcome to take another mission." And he said, "Okay, I'm ready." And they gave him something else. He in a few years, he had moved through it so quickly, they gave him something else. And he got to a point where there was nothing on earth for him to do anymore.
Mm.
And it was time for him to go in the inner plane.
Mm. Extraordinary.
You understand?
You were lucky to find him.
Yes, I was very blessed, very blessed. I mean, when I met him for the first time, and when I saw his stuff online for the first time, I knew.
Mm.
I knew immediately. I'm like, this is what I was looking for. This is the teacher I was looking for. Up to that point, I called no other person my teacher.
Mm.
I had a lot of instructors and people that I thought were very wise and had a lot of information, but to call them teacher, he was the only one.
Of course.
Now, I want you to understand something. The fact that he moved to all of this stuff was one thing, but there was an atmosphere. This is why I'm talking about the harmonic conversion. There was an atmosphere. There was something that was going for the planet around the time that related to very specifically to the era and the very environment in which they were living in, that actually accelerated ascension. So that part is also true today, but in a different way, because the harmonic convergence is no longer here. We are now going through an acceleration that is in the process of taking us not individually, but collectively to a divergence where we will select which reality we will exist in. So the process, although the process that he described in these two books are important, they are not gonna be, if you're following the book, it's not gonna give you the same results. And I'm gonna get into the difference for a moment, but before I do this, I want to explain what's going on with the acceleration that we're going through right now. And I'm gonna explain to you one of the reasons why it would not work. Dr. Stone was living in Northern California, right? Not too far from Mount Shasta. So where he was living, there were multiple wildfires that happened there. I can guarantee you that if he was alive today trying to repeat the same process, where he channeled all the time and was thinking about God and spirit and no negative energy, when you are forced to flee with your pet on your car to get out because the fire is behind your home, you're going to be in fear. The environment in which he was existing at the time didn't have the crises that are being collectively created for us to accelerate this global purge, to remove the influence and the illusion of the adversary and the chaos that he's creating.
Can I say something here, Pierre?
Yes.
This is Kit, because I was the person who went to Mount Shasta, and we had to leave with my dog, etc., with the 4 fires coming in. And I mean, I was sitting there and everything was lovely and divine and wonderful. And I got to experience the equinox and have these beautiful photographs, the summer solstice. And then I wasn't meant to live there because the place I was supposed to move into, the day before I was supposed to move into it, a historic cottage, a very lack of housing up there, the sewer connection broke when they were connecting it, and it could not be fixed. And so the next day the fire started, as you know, Pierre, and it just became evident that, I mean, the fireman said you have to go. So I just gave everything to the people, either back or to the people where I was staying, and left. But it did take some pictures before it accelerated, because the fire started on the other side of Mount Shasta in Weed. And we were all making jokes like Mount Shasta's smoking weed, because the part of Mount Shasta and the town was okay, like in a bubble. But those fire tornadoes occurred, and they shoot the flames off the top, and went into Mount Lassen, and then it went to Klamath. And then I was looking at property over at Fort Edna. It was so intimidating because everything was so dry. And when I drove home and took the exact same picture of this exact same spot of Mount Shasta from this ancient stagecoach path, it looked like it was one of those incense pots that have circles all around it. And it was coming out of holes in the mountain, lava tunnels where plants are growing. They reported all this on the news. And the mountain was smudging itself. I have photographs of it. And I think it's because of all the strange and bizarre things people have brought to that mountain. Just what you're saying, Pierre, all the strange energies. I mean, the mountain was literally cleansing itself. And so, you know, there was no choice just to get in the car and go. And the fire was spreading terribly fast in some of these areas. Just a horrid situation. And I'm so glad I made it.
We're glad you made it too, and that's the exact.
Yeah,
that's the
that's
exact
what point you're making. And it was just like, it was like God sped me along, and you know, this wonderful vehicle, a very good Mercedes. And that summer when I got back down here to the lower the desert, out of the blue, the air conditioning stopped working, which is very rare. I went over to Mercedes because it's 128 here, and they said, I thought I just needed a Freon upgrade or something, or a system flush. I needed the entire air conditioning system rebuilt because it had saved me and Java, my dog, because the embers had gotten sucked in the air system.
Mm.
And that's why I'm not leaving right where God put me right now, as challenging as it can be here. But what you were saying, there's no comparison in the earth chakras. There's no comparison in these places. The change is the cleansing or whatever it is of the Devic energy or Gaia. It's so forceful. And, you know, luckily because I'm a Katrina evacuee as well, and my dreams from my childhood just to go on, I'm not attached to it. People ask me, why, how do you live like this? I said, well, I'm not attached to possessions. I just go where the energy is guiding me to go and make my home there, get what I need there, because it's too profound.
Mm-hmm.
It's not possible. And, you know, luckily this seems to be like the remnant of the frontier out here. But I can see, I mean, there's no comparison between 1988 or 89 and even this was 2 summers ago. But also, it's like everywhere on earth, there've been too many people are coming to these places with God only knows what consciousness, even in Yosemite, you know, all the pictures of the people trying to pet the bison. And it needs to be purified, so the earth is purifying itself.
And kid, there's a greater thing that's going on as well. It's not just people bringing all kinds of energy. It's more that right now the entire 3D construct is being demolished. Okay, there is a demolition crew that's demolishing it, and for that to happen, we have to remove in us our dependence, you know, 5 senses and our reliance, and particularly for human being, or need to control. And so the kind of environment we're in right now, we're going to a collective bardo, a collective transit, a gap between 3D and 5D that will continue until 2030. And during that transit, there will be multiple, what would appear like chaotic and catastrophic events, whether it is fires, floods, hurricanes, droughts, and this is only just climate change, plus there is social, political, financial, all of that will conflict together to help us remove all attachments to the 3D world. And it will eventually lead us into something else, an emerging awareness. So the path of ascension that's presented in front of us, we have a different catalyst. Whereas Dr. Stone had the catalyst of the harmonic convergence, we have the catalyst of a collective bardo, of a collective acceleration, a quickening. And it creates a tremendous amount of fear. And at this stage, for most of us, I know at some point we as a spiritual family will have to do, because somebody in our group was asking in the other class, why are we not doing the kind of in lockstep group work we used to do? For example, in 2018, we did the monadic merge, the Mighty I Am Presence meditation. All of us did it for 1 year every day. We did it together, and when we got to do the fire ceremony, all kind of miraculous things happened upstate. So it was a question was posed, why are we not doing this? Because right now, the way the acceleration and the energy is going, each one of us, we have a customized challenge in front of us. And it's through this customized challenge and us overcoming it that we will pass into a next territory where we can join collectively. We have to purge our attachment and it's not just attachment, but our control, or desire to control. We have to pass that. And once we pass it and we're collective beyond it, we're going to do group work together. And the group work at that moment will be stronger, because whatever the adversary, whatever challenge is presenting to us that may seem at the moment of us, i.e. you running from your car because there's a flood or there's a fire or whatever, or socially or financially you're in crisis, all kinds of things are happening to you emotionally or politically, making you feel, look at all the wars that are happening around the world. All of that is connected to the acceleration. And before the real peace and the real 5D, the doorway into ascendance begin to show up for the whole planet, because this is where it's going now. It's not just going to be a few people like Dr. Stone, 7 people ascending. It's for the whole planet. And before we can get to that, we have to purge. And that purger, that kind of like, you know, forgive me for this analogy, but it's like we're having a planetary laxative.
That's funny.
Okay. we have to let go of all of these things.
Well, I have to say a funny thing here. Oh, many decades ago, I had a master, when the student is ready, the teacher is there. And when all these difficult things happened in New Orleans, phase one, I had a wonderful teacher. He was a Jesuit priest who was also studied Zen. And his genuine name was Father Ben Ren, who taught Zen.
Mm.
The reason I'm giggling is because he had this famous expression before we'd sit down and zazen at the church, because he wanted to transcend everything. He said, and now we begin the Zen enema.
Yes. Well, in Zen Buddhism, it's non-attachment. That's
Yeah,
the key.
letting go.
That's the path to enlightenment.
Right, and of the whole thing, and of everything we thought were belief systems, and of course, Ben Ren Zen, and everyone had to have the cosmic laugh, which makes it easier.
Yes. Yes. And so what I'm saying is that whatever process or teaching that are left behind, whether it is the Kuan Yin Heart Sutra, which is over 1,000 years old, whether it is the first Buddha's teachings or Christ's teachings or Kabbalistic teaching that are over 2,000 years old, whatever the teaching is, it has to connect with the actual context that you're in. And you have to find a way to make it, because there is a global context right now that is connected. For example, Master Jesus was the avatar for the age of Pisces. While now we're on the age of Aquarius, which is the age of brotherly love, when men and women are supposed to ascend themselves to become God and goddesses. There is no more one singular avatar. And therefore, that's why we're going through this collective purger. That's why the whole planet has to go through this turmoil. And where custom tests for each one of us will be created by the adversary. And again, the adversary is not your enemy. The adversary ultimately is your real teacher, but he's the tough teacher that's going to create all the obstacles and the stuff that are going to be very difficult. But in the end, what is it going to do for you? When you pass all these tests, when you say to that adversary, get thee behind me, when you're able to say this and realize it's a test, then you will have such strong will and resolve, and you will step away from faith into a certainty, a permanent state of certainty. Because when the galactic equator, which is the light that radiates directly from the core of our galaxy, right now it is not visible to us, because where we are located in the outer perimeter of our galaxy, there are all these gases and all these other stars and planets between us and the galactic core. In fact, scientists, for them to study it, have to use infrared, X-ray, ultraviolet ray lens to kind of surmise what the galactic core looks like. But every 31 million years, our planet and the whole solar system, because the thickness of the Milky Way is like we're like a pizza pie, but the thickness of that pie is 100 light years across. But every 31 million years, we wobble up or down. And in this instance of this one galactic year, which is a complete rotation around the galactic core, which takes 250 million years to happen, we are now about to wobble up, and this is going to be the 7th wobble in this one galactic year. It's a different cycle. And when we line up to face the galactic light, and it will be a period of 3 days, or about 80 hours in total, it will be a period of complete darkness. And people will die of fear. They will not die of fear. They will transit they will appear to die, but they will transit into another world. Because there's going to be a divergence, a separation. People with similar belief system and true connection to not only what their soul really resonates with, but more importantly, a choice that they're going to make. A choice as to what world and what that future looks like to them. Because not all of us are going to go to 5D. Some people will still remain in the fear, and they will be separated, and they will diverge into a world where there is more fear. It will take them more time to get to the 5D. And there is no judgment from a God perspective. It's a question of separation, of putting things that are the same together, so that the process of ascension and the process of growth can happen in a faster way. And I've delineated in the last summit that I did about 2 weeks ago, I delineated all the various. It's not just a choice between two things. It's not a bifurcation. It's a choice between multiple things. For example, the people who are at Burning Man will go to a different reality. The people who believe, for example, in bypass with medicine or with kind of drugs or chemical to open their consciousness into higher consciousness and all that, they're going to go to a different reality. The people who are concerned with, who are believing that the future is about the insertion of technology and downloading consciousness into machines or inserting machine into men and all that, they're going to go to a different world. There are multiple choices in the horizon. And the part that's the most difficult for all of us is that people that we love, that we care for, people that we adore, family members, friends, colleagues, are going to go to a different bus. They're not going to go into our reality. And we're going to have to be non-attached and let them go and grieve them and be non-attached. At some point in a far distant future, they will join, we're all going to converge. But for the moment, that separation needs to happen. We are living in different times. And again, because men and women have to ascend instead of going through and pushing or relying on an avatar to help us elevate, we got to elevate ourselves. And because all humanity has to do it, the whole planet is being taken to this purge. How do we move through the ascension process in that environment? Emotional intelligence, social intelligence, and spiritual intelligence, the cultivation of the virtues, all the things that I've been teaching you. The collective part has not precipitated for me as yet, and I know it's coming. Maybe next year, maybe the year after, I know it's coming, because we're still moving through the challenges that are presented to us in overcoming what the adversary is testing us with. And the moment that peace is passed, as a spiritual family, we're gonna go to phase 2, which is doing more collective work, more service work, and more walking in lockstep. Any questions, any comments?
Just a quick question about people going to different realities. You have spoken a lot about the new earth, and that is where we are hoping to arrive. Will there be multiple new Earths then for these different realities that people will go to depending on their thought processes?
Yes, there are multiple parallel realities on the horizon, and everyone, you can see it in the collective unconscious of the world right now. As I was describing, the people who are going to Burning Man, they think of themselves as deeply spiritual. Okay, but it's a all the shaman and all the people who are doing their stuff there, they come with candle, they do rituals, they do all of that stuff, but it's a bacchanal.
Right. So this is a parallel reality.
Yes.
It's still attached to the new Earth, but just in a.
It's a parallel reality that will diverge. It's not the new Earth in itself, in its true form, is only one reality. One reality. The other parallel realities, to the people who are convinced that the Burning Man experience, because the principle of it sounds good. It's going to the desert and creating a city in where there's no money, where you have to bring everything yourself. All of the principles sounds idealistic. It's utopian, but it got corrupted by some other things, right? So the people who are in that reality are going to go there. They're going to believe, convinced that they're going to the new Earth. And it is us who are going somewhere else that are going to be lost. You understand?
So where is there a location for these parallel realities, or is it right here at home? You know how they say you traveled greatly, but you never left home.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so according to Zen Buddhism and the channeling that I have received, it's funny, I received the channeling first, and when I heard the Zen master say this, I was in total shock. They said basically that the new Earth that we're going to go into is 1,129 light years away from here.
Wow, that is hard to believe. It's amazing. Like going through a wormhole kind of thing?
Yes. Those 3 days of darkness will be us traveling through a wormhole. That's correct. That's correct. And it's funny because when he said, I was in total shock. Janice, I don't know if you remember this. This was the Chinese Zen master that came from China when we were at the Chinese embassy with Monty. You remember this gentleman?
Yes.
He said exactly that number.
Yeah.
I was in total shock because I had channeled exactly the same thing.
So this is a physical change of location. Are the parallel realities a physical change that all these different groups would be going to?
I am not sure because this is the place where one of the harmony convergence had happened. Palenque in Mexico. They did a ritual there because it was one of the earth chakra locations. So for example, in Palenque, to use an example, it is believed archaeologically, the archaeologists have a hard time understanding what happened to people in Palenque. Because unlike other cities, like in Machu Picchu, people left Machu Picchu. There's nothing left behind. When people are leaving, they take their stuff. But in Palenque, everything is still there. It's simply that the people are missing. So the archaeologists cannot understand. And according to Don Juan and Carlos and his entire lineage, the people in Palenque, the shaman, knew what was going to happen with the conquistador. They vibrate the entire city into a parallel reality, which means, although the jungle has invaded the inner world, that the people are still moving about in the city in a different reality.
That's interesting.
So the two realities are on top of each other.
Hmm.
That's one way to say it. But I know from my channeling and also from the Zen Buddhist master that the new earth is 1,129 light years away. I don't know exactly where, but if you take if you can find a compass from Earth that could draw a radius that's big enough with that length of in space within that perimeter and that range, and if there is a Earth-like planet, an exoplanet, maybe that's where we're gonna land. I don't know.
But it won't be a 3D environment.
It won't be just 3D, it will be in 5D.
Right.
Part of it is going to be, because the way to explain this is to say 3D has length, width, and depth. When you enter the 4D, it's a mastery of space, and 5D is a mastery of time. So when you are in 4D and you look at things, the way you experience things is that you see the beginning and the end of everything at perpetuity. Whether it's a flower, and in fact, if you look online and you look at the term tesseract, you will see videos that show you in 3D what the tesseract would look like. It looks like a torsion field. It's a geometric shape that keeps perpetually moving inside of itself and inverted inside out. So in 4D, it's an understanding of, it's a different understanding. So if we are in a so-called 3D environment per se, that environment will be understood in a completely different way because we will all have tesseract perception. That's the best way I can put it. You see what I'm saying? And in the next thing is to master. So if you're mastering time, you can be at the beginning, at the end of anything all at once. There is something about time that's very strange, the way we human beings are experiencing it. We can remember the past, but there is no logical reason why we cannot see the future.
Hmm. Right.
There is, it's the other perception in reverse. There's no reason why we can't. Right? And so we're going to get to a point where we can actually see it.
Hmm. Hmm. But it'll all still be an illusion.
Correct.
Right?
It will all, that's correct. Because there is a higher perception in 5D and 6D, 7D, 8D, and more things will come in. And then ultimately, when we get to a point where this is why Ascension is the beginning of the journey. It's not a destination. It's actually the beginning of the journey.
Or as Dr. Stone did, he went straight to, what's that Monopoly term, go straight to go or something. He went straight home. He did not move through the ascension process dimension by dimension.
Yes. Because his dharma was different. His purpose was different than ours.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is connected to your purpose, to your karma and your purpose.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Sometimes when you're facing these catastrophic illnesses, a lot of time it's a question of renegotiating your contract. In other words, is to understand that you're threatened by something, but it might be that at that moment, spirit is trying to guide you into a different awareness. And if you can accept that awareness and that mission and that purpose for whatever time that spirit is willing to give you, that's a way for, this is what Dr. Stone did. Granted, he was very advanced. He's
Can I
not,
say something
yes,
here? That Janice, I think that's you. That's what happened to me when I met Pierre, because I'd been supposed to be dead, and nobody could figure out why so many times why I was still alive, what was wrong. They knew something was very wrong, but nobody knew. I have to laugh because that's how I cope. Because I kept saying, "Well, it's not my time. It's not my time," and I kept telling God, because we have the streetcars in New Orleans that there's a famous saying. Dad used to say it all the time. There's always another streetcar coming down the track, and it's a metaphor, of course. And I just had said, I'm not going to get on this streetcar. I'm not going now. I'm not ready to go. I'm not going. That's that. So say that's it. Not going. And Pierre met me at such a terrible time. I mean, could hardly move. I was so messed up. And then since then, with 8 years ago, with doing the Jin Chen and the other exercises, what was wrong with this childhood medical accident became revealed. It's almost like if we did a chart that somebody planned it all out. At the times, the surgeries, the recovery, where I'm supposed to be, the Dharma, what I'm doing, how I'm helping my friends, where I'm living. It's quite amazing, actually. And I don't think I'm the only person from New Orleans going through it. There's a lot of us who felt we were, so to speak, evacuees, or some people refugees in the United States. I wasn't in that situation, but people knew they were. So many people that they were being guided to. Famous people knew, like Aaron Neville, Fats Domino, who spoke out, that it was unhealthy to go home for certain people. Like we had to go to a new place and be who we were. Like they had to say, bring New Orleans wherever you are, or be New Orleans. So I think of that a lot, about the frequency and the whole bit. And like I never in my life, I didn't even know where 29 Palms was, or that I'd be living in an oasis, which is fantastic. So I think everything has its chapter and its time, and for all of us, if we ask, the angels, God, listen. Ask and you shall receive.
yeah,
Knock and it shall be open to you.
yeah,
That's my humble view. But if I hadn't met Pierre and done the exercises, the meditations, and Pierre's divine insights, I wouldn't be here, because nobody knew. And out of the blue, a piece of metal came out of my jaw.
yeah,
Yeah. So anyway, I definitely feel that for all of us, not just for me, for all your students that I know a bit humbly about, and that we've all been kind of saved to be here, and that we do have a dharma,
yeah,
whatever that is, even if it's just to be patient talking to a friend,
mhm,
who needs clarification or encouragement, or whatever a bigger picture could
yeah,
be about liberation. And I do think a lot of it's to do with people getting out of personal bondage in
mhm,
these belief systems, and the karma, and the negative self, and the negative ego. They're so entrenched.
yeah,
Luckily, we live in an era where neuroplasticity is a reality,
yeah,
and that these fixed belief systems, maybe they are real for some people, but and work, and maybe sometimes they need to be shed, like a skin.
yeah,
So I've also wondered too, well, where will this New Earth be? Even though I kind of feel like I'm already living in part of it right now.
yeah,
And who will be there, and like when will I see my kids? And Janice, I'm going to say a nice thing about you. I was always think it's just a beautiful voice, even though I don't really know you. So, well, if Janice is there, I know I'll have a lot of nice conversations with someone with a beautiful voice. Yeah, because it is very unknown. And yet my mother, because we traveled a lot all over the world with my father in the oil business, And she'd teach me as a young girl, now wherever we are, we're going to be where we are.
Mhm.
We're going to get to know the people on their life. And we're going to see where we fit with them.
Yeah.
And that miraculous teaching of my beautiful mother, Claire de la Verne, has really gotten me through life. And other friends out here, it's like, they're wonderful people all over the planet.
Yeah.
And just what you're saying, Pierre, we're all going through it. And
Yeah.
some places which seem to be more spiritual hubs, so to speak, like the terrible events in Gaza and Jerusalem, it's just so much worse. It's very bizarre. But even right here, I know I've lots of friends dealing with illness and the concept of oppression, or what is the lesson,
Yeah.
the spiritual lesson that they are learning from this strange thing they're going through.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. I saw a joke one day, I can't remember what it was, but I never forgot it. And a person sitting somewhere, and God drops like a log on top of their head and says, well, God says, well, now that I finally got your attention, let's have some conversations.
Yeah. So, thank you, Kit. And I just want to, I'm acknowledging because I remember very well when we had those conversation and all that. And I remember me saying to you, it's your teeth. I
Yeah, and
remember,
you knew something drip by drip.
yes,
that
I remember saying it's your teeth. Whatever it is, it's your teeth. And I didn't know anything else, but I could feel it. That was the direction. Anyway, so I'm so happy that you're in a different place. And I'm so happy for all of you, whatever challenge is presented to you, it's your way of learning. It's actually, whatever your challenge is, think of it as a teaching module, a very difficult teaching module. Okay? That's what it is. And we all have to move through a thing in order for us to get to the collective part, which is the next phase. Any other questions or comments before we take a break, a water break? All right, let's take a 5-minute break. During the meditation, I will bring up the symbol for certainty for us to stare at the very last piece of the meditation. 5 minutes, water break. Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. It is as if your entire perception, eyes, and awareness emanated from the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Listen. Listen as if the more than 50 trillion cells in your body had ears. What information? Knowing. Is your body trying to share with you? whatever awareness, insights, and breakthroughs. Simply witness them without having to control, manage, or do anything with them. Become aware of any insights, knowing that your emotional body is trying to share with you. What feelings, sensations, emotions are a challenge for you at this time? It is not your responsibility to fix, do, or repair anything. Simply notice what you noticed. And take a very deep breath from the core of the earth. And let this breath move through the bottom of your feet, passing through your physical body, removing any resistance, any pain, any suffering related to it. And let it all move and go into infinity times infinity in the blessed field. And as you exhale deeply, let go. Let infinity times infinity and the solution set transmute miraculously and instantaneously all pain and all suffering. Let Mother, Father God restore harmony and balance every cells in your entire body. Let the light and the healing of infinity times infinity transform every cell in your body to ignite the biophotons, the self-generated light body, and instantaneously transmute every part of your physical being into perfect healing and health. Take a very deep breath from the core of the earth and let this breath move through the bottom of your feet and remove all emotional needs to manage and control your fears, your distress, your vulnerability, and your weakness. No matter how broken you are, take a deep breath from the core of the earth and let it move through the bottom of your feet and exit outside of your head, and taking with it your entire fragmented and broken emotional self, and let it all be released into infinity times infinity as you surrender yourself completely into God. You don't have to fix, do, repair anything. Let God and the energy of healing and miraculous transformation and divine grace cascade down into your emotional body and replace brokenness with healing. Replace trauma and drama with love. And let all broken part that may exist from here and into all of your entire aspects of yourself that may exist in all timelines be miraculously and instantaneously repaired and redeemed by the grace, the healing, the love, the radiation, and the generosity of the uncreated benefactor. Take a very deep breath from the core of the earth and let this breath move through the bottom of your feet, passing through your spiritual body. As you become aware of your true identity in the blessed field, as an integral part of endlessness, as a light incarnated on earth, as a brilliant expression of divine purpose, and as an anchor for the radiation, the manifestation of light, of love, of harmony, and of peace profound. Now look at your screen for the 3 Hebrew letters for absolute certainty. And you're going to look at them from right to left: Ayin, Shir, and Yod. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you, Pierre. With much gratitude, deep, profound reverence for the gifts you've given.
Ah, what a mirror, what a reflection. Something really deep went today. I'm going to have to ask somebody to transcribe the meditation for me because I was not expecting all of this to be channeled.
I felt like you were speaking to me.
Oh, wasn't me. God
Mm.
was speaking to you.
Mm.
Any other comments and questions before we close?
I just want to say it was beautiful. Also, there were many different, it was like a movie playing with my eyes closed. There were many scenery, there were many different uh, pictures, energy changing, rearranging, lighting up, glowing, making different patterns. And some of them to me were very, well, I guess they were abstract in a way, and some were, just looked like natural scenery, like plains and trees, mountains with rocks and trees. I mean, it was very, very interesting.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I want to thank you all for listening to me tonight and for allowing me the opportunity to share with you some of the things that I was able to channel for you today. I want to thank you all. If you're listening to us on Patreon, thank you for your support. If you're listening to us on YouTube, like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. We'd appreciate it. And I will talk to all of you next week. Thank you so much, family. I love you so much. Good night, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Good night.
Here, I just want to say one quick thing. I felt the difference between the certainty and faith.
Yes.
I mean, I felt the energetic difference.
Yes.
Certainty was very, very powerful. Faith was powerful too, but not that solid powerful.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you all. Love you all. Good night, Esther. Good night, Janice. Good night, kid. Everyone else. Good night. Love you.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Love you all.